Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Eljay Johnsen Show. The show airs every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have any questions over the week, and guest announcements are made on Tuesday on Twitter. If you have any questions for our guest over the week, feel free to send an email to ljjohnson@gmail.com. Just to do note, make sure you're spelling Johnson right, because it's not the traditional spelling, with the O, it's with an E. And there are certain people, you know who you are, who spelled it with an O in the past and almost didn't get me some things that I needed for other guests. So, and if you have any questions over the course of the show, then feel free to send a tweet at the Eljay Johnsen using the hashtag the Eljay Johnsen Show, and we'll get to them before the end of the show. So I'm actually really, really excited for today's guest. Let me go ahead and introduce them. In a galaxy far, far away, there were a lot of things happening in the LEGO realms, and by that I mean LEGO Universe. And little LJ really wanted to get into LEGO Universe, so he got into the beta, and he's like, oh boy, I'm so excited, only to find out, alas, he could not get into LEGO Universe. His computer was too much of a potato, and there was nothing more he could do. And today I'm talking to a man who directs a project that sees to it the expansion and continuation of what I have heard is a fantastic universe. I'm talking about none other than Javier Hernandez, otherwise known as Bob Bricks. How are you doing today?
They're pretty nice, actually.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah, just going all the work.
Work's always fun. Well, okay, I take that back. Work isn't necessarily always fun.
It depends. Depends on what you're working on.
But fair enough, yeah. Like, today I've been working on this and getting everything set up, and that's been fun. But, like, tonight I'm going to be doing my other job, and that will be a toss-up. We don't know yet.
Okay.
So, Javier, I'm very excited to have you on today because I don't know a whole lot about the LEGO Universe in general. And so this is going to be a learning experience for me. But for starters, go ahead and introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself, and kind of give us a background on what you do and how you came into the community.
Okay, so it all started on a cold night when I was born. No, seriously. Okay, no, seriously. No, seriously. Like, I got into Lego, like, pretty much ever since I was born, like, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my experience with Lego, I've been with Lego throughout all my life, and I can't really recall on when I started.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who might not know, or might not guess because of my name, I'm from Mexico, where the amount of sets is not very large, so I couldn't get a lot of them back then.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, my case here is ever since then, I pretty much wanted to satiate my need of Lego going on the internet, and then it's when I discovered lots of stories, those of Bionicle, Exoforce, among others. So ever since then, I'm sort of a Lego story aficionado, say.
Okay, so you were basically born with a brick in your hand and an instruction booklet in the other, and you were really into stories regardless, and like Bionicle, and Nexonite, Zero Factory, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you've... what do you think about kind of storyless themes, like City or Friends, stuff like that?
Yeah, so basically, that's sort of where my experience on storytelling goes, because there were a lot of themes with stories, and I love them. I love playing around with them. But then there were other themes which didn't really have a whole lot of background, so I would go ahead and think around, trying to figure out the story, how they all connect with each other. And pretty much that's basically how I fell in love with LEGO Universe. Having this huge game where a lot of things come together, not necessarily LEGO themes, but several concepts and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's what really attracted you to LEGO Universe, is a lot of what it put forward, but it kind of presented in its world.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Well, I'm very interested to learn more about it because, like I said earlier in the episode, I just couldn't get into it. I talked to tech support and I said, "Sorry, your computer is basically just a brick. We're sorry about that." And that was the start and end of it. And then I heard it got canceled. And then I read about it in Brick by Brick, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's the extent of my knowledge." So, before we move on into that, though, what are some specific things about Lego that you particularly like? Obviously, the story themes, but do you have some favorite sets? Maybe some favorite themes, not so favorite sets or themes? Kind of general questions like that.
Yeah, so basically, my enjoyment of a theme obviously comes down to how much I enjoy playing around with the story. But as far as other things like sets go, for example, I love Ultra Agents, like the designs of the vehicles, the characters, especially the villains. Like all of them are fantastic.
I think actually, oh goodness, you know about the villain. I think it was the villain was from at least Agents, the preceding theme to Ultra Agents. Yeah, his name was it Ogle?
That was the villain of Alpha Team.
Oh darn it, that's what I'm thinking
On
of. Never mind.
Agents, it was Doctor Inferno.
Okay, that was right. Yeah, disregard me in that case.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, yeah, Agents. Agents and Ultra Agents. Is it still a current theme? I don't remember.
No, it got cancelled.
Ah, dang. That
Yeah,
sucks.
I say the same. Like it had so much more potential.
Yeah, no, the Agents and Ultra Agents themes, like the sets look really, really unorthodox compared to other themes, maybe except for space, like the Space Police themes. But there's so much you could do with that, and like they're secret agents, and they got all their cool gadgets and all the neat stuff.
Oh yeah, I love that pretty much. Like everything that went on it.
Yeah. So, of the few sets you did get, do you have any that stand out in particular? Because obviously, Lego Universe didn't have a set theme to go with it, unless they did, and I'm just talking out of my feet here.
There was a rocket, but I didn't get it because it didn't release here.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I do have a couple sets. Right now, I've been some of those I've collected throughout my life, and a bit more recently because of money. But if I had to choose a favorite set, I'd say the Ultracopter from Ultra Agents.
Ooh, Ultracopter. I want to look this up. Sounds interesting. Ultracopter.
Let me say right now that the pictures don't really make it justice. Like having it in my hands, it just feels so good. Like rotating the propellers and just playing around with it is it's great.
Oh,
And the
wow.
minifigures are not bad either.
No kidding. Ooh, one of them has that really cool armor piece in transparent blue. Oh, that's slick. That is okay. I don't know, man. The pictures are they're doing a really good job of impressing me. Kind of like
Yeah, but it feels so much better on person.
understand
Believe
that.
me.
Yeah. Oh, that looks really cool. Huh. I'll have to look into that a little bit more because I'm also fairly unfamiliar with Ultra Agents or generally non-construction themes. But that is awesome. All right, well, in
Really
that
is
case, now that
exciting.
we've got everything laid out, let's go ahead and move into Lego Universe. So, for those who are like me, who just are unfamiliar, or maybe we're from Construction or we're from Ninjago and we just don't know very many other themes, break down for me what Lego Universe is and what it did. I'd love to hear this.
Okay, so Lego Universe, as you might know, is basically an MMORPG, or it was, and the first Lego ever released and worked on. It was this huge game where you could like create your own minifigure and just hang around in other places, lots of different worlds with lots of different enemies and characters, designs. Like you have these green landscapes, pretty peaceful, but then you had these massive battlefields of just completely messed up terrains. Like it had so much variety and pretty much every aspect. And also one of its core features is like the ability to build pretty much anything you wanted. Like there were these properties in the game that you could claim, And you could also collect some bricks here and there by doing missions or buying them from the vendors. And you could create these massive buildings and others could visit them and play around with them, hang around. There were missions and also had its own story, which is the base of how our universe was born.
Interesting. Okay, so it's basically like a like boil it all down, kind of like I want to say World of Warcraft, in a sense.
Yeah,
Okay, and wow, it's interesting how it sounds like they brought a lot of those concepts, at least the building whatever you want in a large, sprawling terrain with a lot of variety in the biomes and the scenery. Kind of brought that into Lego Worlds in a sense.
I always thought like Lego Worlds was in a sense the LU's predecessor. No, predecessor, no, successor.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah, and at least I've played Lego Worlds and it's phenomenal. So if it's anything
I agree.
like Lego Universe, then wow. Okay, so it's a large MMO with its own story, and give me a summary on this story. I've heard only snippets.
Okay, so basically the story starts with four explorers looking to find the origin and the source of everything that exists, which is basically the imagination nexus, which can grant life to the thought. Like anything you could imagine, you could create it using the nexus. So these four explorers go on a quest to find it. But as soon as they find it, one of the explorers, the Baron Typhonus, basically goes pretty mad and summons a giant creature because he thinks like the Nexus could do much more. But this creature it's made of chaos and basically turns on the Baron and drags him into the Nexus, which corrupts it and creates this massive maelstrom of chaos which corrupts anything in its path. So basically, the remaining of the three explorers, alongside a recruit they called in, so they form four factions, and together they form the Nexus Force, which basically fights against the Maelstrom to save the universe and the Nexus.
Interesting. It's fascinating. I have never heard that before. Huh. Okay. That is wow. That's a great setup. And okay, and so then you play as part of the Nexus Nexus Squad, was it?
Nexus Force.
Nexus Force. I was that close. And you kind of go around possibly solving issues and creating things and trying to kind of balance everything again.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, and this game started in I want to say 2009.
I think it was like the official release. I think it was in 2010.
2010 was close. Okay. Okay, 2010, and it lasted about a year, roughly.
Yeah, it closed on January 2012.
January 2012. Okay, couple of years. All right. Interesting. And so, from your experience playing this game, you said it was an MMO. So could you interact with other people? Did it have like an online multiplayer?
Yeah, you could interact with people, make your own teams, add friends, and there was a chat also, so you could communicate with them. It was a bit limited on some aspects, but yeah, you could basically interact with lots of people, just normal, team up with them. There were mini games where you could bring a team of people and just play around. Like there were boss fights, survival games, racetracks.
Huh. So there's a lot to do in this game. This wasn't just a tiny little, we're working on. It was a full-fledged MMO at the time.
Yeah.
And now I did hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, of course, that it started out as a free-to-play game, but then went to a subscription?
No, I think it was the other way around.
Oh, okay, that makes a little more
it started
sense.
as a paid and later introduced the free-to-play concept.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense. Interesting. So getting into the game and kind of getting into this world, I can imagine how one can get quite invested because that sounds just incredibly sprawling. There's just so much there and a lot. There are a lot of meat and potatoes to this stew. So I can understand how this getting shut down would have been pretty disappointing. Um,
Yes.
what was the general reaction to the community, the Lego Universe community, when it was announced that yes, it is going away at this point, and what did people do?
So basically, as you'd expect, a lot of people were upset, disappointed, but a lot of others also tried to like keep it alive, like with the making of private servers to share around with other people and just keep playing, for example.
Okay, and there are I'm aware that there are other projects that are actively currently working on that kind of an Age of Empires online situation. If anyone is familiar with that, where people are hosting a server so that people can still play the game.
Yeah, pretty much like that.
Okay. And now that's a decent segue as any to get into our universe, which is the project that you currently direct, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
All right, now for everyone who, okay, now this is really interesting. Break down our universe. Tell me what it's about and where it came from.
So basically, our universe, the idea of our universe came alongside the announcement of Lego Universe Closure. Like, I was obviously disappointed, but then I thought, like, with the recent release of Ninjago's pilot episodes, I told to myself, man, it would be cool if Lego Universe had something like this, something like a show. And ever since then, I sort of worked on like fleshing out the story, the events, the character arcs. Ever since then and until now, we're still doing it. So that's basically where the idea for our universe was born, to make a series about Lego Universe.
Okay, so it's to expand on that and kind of continue in a way. So how much knowledge does one need to have about Lego Universe to get invested into our universe?
That's one of the things we are actually actively working on to, well, yeah, to work on that. Like, our idea is that you don't really need to have a lot of knowledge or at all even of Lego Universe. Like, we want this to be a series where you can watch it and introduce new people like easily into the world of Lego Universe. And of course, as other things, like a little bit of fan service here and there, references for the people that did know about Lego Universe. So basically, we want this to be as accessible as possible for any sort of audience.
Okay, that's good because like for someone like me who doesn't have that knowledge, getting into it might be daunting. But it's good that you guys have already considered that aspect and are working on that. Okay.
Yeah, we want to have like the largest viewer base possible.
Of course, yeah. All right, and now pertaining to the story, is this going to be centered on a particular group of characters? Is it going to be more of an anthology kind of a deal, or kind of a group of the week thing, or what's the focus?
Okay, so in the original game, you obviously played as your own character, and that basically the story revolves around you, the player. But in our universe, we sort of want to make a story of everything that wasn't very explored in the actual game, the actual characters from it, how the Nexus Force was born, how the four faction leaders of the Nexus Force came together, all of the side characters' story arcs, all of the events that were mentioned in the actual game, and of course those that are present in the game. So basically, we want to expand on everything that was told in the game and tell stories that didn't get to be very explored.
Okay, so you guys are going to go over all of the concepts and those seen, unseen, etc., and kind of expand on that.
Yes.
Interesting. All right. And so you said that you wanted to have a broad focus and not just specifically on where Lego Universe had your character. This is going to be for a general swab. So I see on your Twitter that you have a large banner of characters. Are these all characters that are going to have a focus in the show, or is it going to be kind of narrowed down a bit more?
Some of them will have a larger focus on the actual show. So got some particular episodes for each. The show will focus majorly on the four faction leaders. which were like sort of the protagonists of the game.
Okay,
And
and
we
they're
explored
right in the
them.
middle, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Okay.
we will explore them. We will focus on them, but we'll also have lots of characters, and certain episodes will explore each of them, maybe several at once. So yeah, not
Okay.
all of those will be very explored because some of them will be extras and so.
Yeah,
But at least the most iconic or unique ones will get their special treatment.
that makes sense. That's understandable. That actually does bring me to my next question. Factions. I've been hearing a lot about factions. I don't understand the concept, and I'm not very familiar with what they are. If you could like break that down for me, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so of course there are four factions in the Nexus Force: the Assembly, the Paradox, the Sentinels, and the Venture League. So basically, each of them has like a particular role within the Force. It basically breaks down to the Assembly are the orange, yellow ones, and basically they focus on the creation to build the future of the Nexus Force, quite literally. The Paradox, which are the red and black ones, basically focus on discovering more about the Maelstrom, about the enemy, how they can turn its own strength against it, embrace its power. The Sentinels, which will be the blue ones, focus on strength and courage, like, pretty much one of the largest factions in terms of raw numbers and strength, and they focus on head-to-head combat, protect the innocent, and all of that. And finally, Venture League basically focus around explore. Oh, they are the green ones, by the way.
Oh, okay.
They focus on exploration, seeking weaknesses, and more opportunities to fight against the Maelstrom.
Okay, interesting. So they all kind of round out the overall Nexus Force.
Yes.
Okay, and then we're gonna. So every episode, we're gonna be focusing on a team of these individuals, or at least one per episode, and then it kind of all culminates.
We will work. It depends on the episode, of course. Sometimes we focus in on a particular character from a particular faction. Sometimes, like maybe two characters from two different factions, or maybe from the same faction. But all in all, we want to like connect every episode with each other, so it doesn't feel like it's just filling for the series. We
Okay.
want to leave everything to the main plot of each particular season, for example.
Okay, I see. Interesting. Yeah, because I had no idea that was. I knew that there were factions. I just had no background information on them. So, all right. So pertaining to the show, currently, I'll have to ask just a few details here. What is the current projection as to how many episodes, if there is one right now, that you're going to be making and releasing?
It's hard to tell right now. We're actively working on expanding on the episodes, changing some aspects, and sometimes even adding or removing them, if the case is given. But at the moment, if I had to take an estimate on the amount of episodes for each season, we wanted to make at least 10 to 10 to 14 for 3 seasons.
Okay, so 10 to 13 episodes per season?
Yes.
Okay, that's a sizable amount. That's roughly within Ninjaga's ballpark. Okay, and so you guys are in. You've been developing this for a while now,
Yes.
and obviously you have a team of individuals. And about how far along, for those listening, would you say you are in production?
So again, the idea was born on 2011, but like the actual work on the storyboards, the scripts, and all of that started roughly around 2014. I like to say, and ever since then, I've been spending on that quite a lot, recruiting more members for the team, developing more assets for the show, a website even. We have a lot of people on our team, which each focuses on different things, majorly voice actors, but still.
Okay, I understand. So, and actually, speaking of voice actors, I know that you have a pinned tweet you have an active casting call. Is that still open? Or are you still looking for voice talents?
Yes, it is still open, and anyone who like to join our team, like, you can feel free to hit me up, because we are always available and happy to welcome new members to the Our Universe family.
Excellent. All right. So you're just looking for general skill sets, general people to come on and lend a hand.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. And we'll get to the contact info to where we can have people submit their applications to you right before we end. So we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
All right. So the show, you guys have been working on it for a while. It's getting a lot of traction, and which is fantastic. What right now has been the largest hurdle working on such a large community project and with this ambitious scope, such as a show?
What are you saying?
What's been the biggest challenge working on it?
Okay, so the biggest challenge, it always, pretty much everything has some sort of challenge to it. I can't really describe the most difficult part of the project.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has its own amount of difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually proving to be a bit more time-consuming than other things, actually recruiting people.
Okay, I see. All right, well, that's at least a good thing. At least if it's a moderate level of of challenge per part of the project, that's at least a little bit easier to manage, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah. And when you got into this project, now, were you one of the founders of it, or did you kind of come in later and kind of take over for someone? And what has it been like working on a project like this?
So I was the original idea. Like, I came up with the idea of a Lego Universe show, and ever since then I worked with lots of other people, friends of mine, like designing this huge Lego story. Not only Lego Universe, but a huge timeline, trying to connect every Lego theme. And our universe is basically one of the largest projects within that timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, we've recruited more people to help with the story, the lore, and everything that comes with it. But yeah, I was pretty much the first, like the one big mind behind it all.
Okay, you're the head honcho. All right, awesome. Okay. That is fantastic that you guys have been able to actually progress and really work on this project after all this time. Real quickly, I'm going to take a short break here to mention, if you have any questions, feel free to send them in via Twitter, hashtag the Eljay Johnsen Show at Eljay Johnsen, as well as the guest, and we will go ahead and get to answering those closer to the end of the show. So if you have any questions, go ahead and send them in right away. All right. So another thing I want to talk about, and this is kind of how I found out about the project and about the work that you had done, is you post a bit of artwork on your personal Twitter, and it's a lot of artwork either pertaining to the Our Universe project or even some other LEGO themes such as Nexo Knights and Ninjago. If you would elaborate a little bit, I'm interested to know, kind of that side of things, getting into the artwork and working on those drawings, because they're really good.
Thank you. So, one of my focus on drawing things, like making them sort of have a realistic look to it. Like, make them how they will be in a world, not like a fiction world with humans and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Making them have some sort of sense. And I like doing as many themes as possible, old ones and new ones alike.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's been pretty much a whole adventure, actually. Like, you get to meet a lot of different fans from different themes. Like, you meet Bionicle fans, Nexo Knights, Ninjago, even Ultra Agents.
Huh. Okay, so yeah, you're kind of reaching out to everyone when you make these fan drawings, so that's awesome. And now, are you the lead artist on the project? Because I do see a lot of artwork pertaining to it, or is it kind of a team of artists working on it?
We are a team of artists, yes.
Okay.
As far as art goes, we are not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do make a bunch of artwork. I haven't released a lot of it, but yeah, I have done a lot.
Okay. All right, I understand. Okay. Let me see here. So, what it's pertaining to the release schedule of the project. You guys said that you have a current plan of maybe about 10 to 13 or so episodes. And this has been a project that you guys have had in the works for a while. What is the biggest hurdle right now that if resolved will speed up the timeline of production? What's the thing you guys are really pining for at the moment?
Well, voice actors, to be honest.
Oh,
Like as soon
okay.
as like we got equipment, we got pretty much everything ready to start. Scripts are done, and the general idea of how we want to go with the story, at least with first season, it's pretty much all done and ready to get started. It's just like the crew that is lacking, voice actors in particular.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, in that case, that casting call is pretty important.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. All right. So after you guys get the necessary crew and talents, now feel free not to answer this because I know what it's like to, give a projection for a project and then it just doesn't work out for whatever reason. So, do you guys have a ballpark year that you would ideally like to start releasing episodes?
It is hard to tell, to be honest. Like to tell you the truth, it's really hard to tell when we think the story is actually releasing.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, however, that we're working on doing the first teaser for the series, and at least we expect to release that around early February, preferably.
Oh, wow. So, just in a couple months.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. In that case, everyone keep an eye out for that. And that's going to be good. Okay, so for just a brief moment, I want to go ahead and move into another topic of discussion, still pertaining to LEGO Universe, of course, and get your take on kind of community projects as a whole. Since you are, directing this large, ambitious project, I'm curious as to your take as to all of these community projects and what you would recommend that they do in order to succeed. Because there are a lot that they'll start up, especially in the biological community. I've seen a ton that'll start up and it'll be like, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to be the ones to do this. And then just motivation's lost, people get busy, and things just kind of shut down. So, what would be your word of advice to those who are trying to make a project in the LEGO community and
So
to help them move forward with that?
okay, okay. So I obviously can't really speak for a lot of every project because everyone does different things, and I
Mm-hmm.
just don't have knowledge of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as these sort of things go, like making series, be it animation, stop motion, or anything of the likes, set a schedule. Like, know what you're looking to do. Have your priorities. Have like sort of like a timeline. Like by this time you want to have this thing done, and so on. Like you want the story done, what the themes you're gonna do, how the story will end. That's very important because otherwise you really don't know how the story is going. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, just dedicate yourself to what you are actually making, and sort of set a time when you want to get things done. That certainly makes it easier to actually get to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, don't set yourself mm, unrealistic expectations. Like have this huge thing with lots of different things, this very busy project, like by I don't know the next month because that's pretty much that's not gonna happen. So basically, be realistic, but also be hopeful of what you're actually making. Dedicate yourself to it.
Okay. I've heard that that piece of advice, that one thing you mentioned, set a schedule. Because earlier I had Just Too Good on a few weeks ago, and somebody had asked, well, okay, how do you do a YouTube channel? What's the most important part? He said set a schedule. So I'm kind of seeing a reoccurring theme here. Scheduling is incredibly important when it comes to working on a project or a channel or just anything that you hope to get off the ground?
Pretty
And
much, to be honest.
okay, so that's I feel like that's one of the best takeaways that I've noticed is have a set schedule. And I love what you were saying about set reasonable expectations because that's very important because a lot of people and projects will have this big thing. It'll be like, oh, this is going to be so ambitious, it's so huge, but we're the ones who are going to get it done, and it often does not go that way. So I'm
It
really
really says when that happens.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm really excited because this seems like you guys, you understand what you're doing, you know what you want to do, and you've got kind of a roadmap set out in front of you.
Yes. I'd say that's a pretty good way to describe it.
Excellent. That is fantastic. Are there any other fan projects that come to mind that you were like, oh yeah, no, this is great, or maybe active ones that you're really looking forward to seeing?
Well, not really, to be honest. Like, at least recently, something wouldn't come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been following Dark Flame Universe, which is sort of like working on recreating the game, Lego Universe, I mean. It's obviously different than ours,
Mm-hmm.
but I look forward for the progress because, like us, they seem to be dedicate themselves to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
I think both of our releases will benefit the other even, because the larger the Lego Universe audience is, the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I look forward for their work to be done.
I bet it'd be fun to, get back into it and play it a bit, especially
Oh
after all
yeah,
this time.
it really was a fun game. Very fun.
It sounds like it. It's like everyone kept on telling me, "Oh, LJ, you missed out," and it's like, "Meh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about it, but it sounds really good."
Yeah.
Speaking of the other project you mentioned, Dark Flame Universe, have you guys ever looked into collaborating with other projects, or has this, for the moment, been a focus heavily on we're just going to keep this here, we're just going to work on this, and when we get to a certain point, we'll look about branching out?
We are obviously focusing on our own thing, but this is something we have discussed, like working with each other, probably Dark Flame Universe or DLU. So something that obviously, of course, as I mentioned, is something that will benefit us both because our projects don't really overlap each other. Like maybe imagine you're playing the game and you're like, oh, I'd love to see more about this story, and surprise, that's our universe, and vice versa. You like to play the game that this story was based on, which is obviously possible thanks to Dark Flame Universe efforts.
Okay, I see. Interesting.
So it's something we have discussed and working on, but at the moment we haven't really fleshed out that idea a lot.
Okay, that makes sense. That's perfectly understandable. It's good to get everything all set up and ready to go, and then move on from there.
Yeah.
So, all right. Oh goodness. There's something I was gonna ask. It was just on the tip of my tongue. Um. Oh darn it all! Come on, me. What were you? It's pertaining to. Oh, there we go. Nice, nailed it. All right. So, moving slightly back to our universe specifically. You mentioned that it is going to showcase a lot of the things that happened either in Lego Universe or things that were events, but weren't necessarily shown. How strict is our universe in keeping with the rules of the Lego Universe theme? Like how
So it's something
closely?
we've worked a lot on. Like we actually have original concept on it, original characters to like sort of connect better with other themes. So Lego Universe doesn't seem very alien from other Lego themes. Like I don't know, Galaxy Squad, for example, and the likes. We won't obviously focus on them, but it's something we work on to connect everything into one single theme. So we want to make this as faithful as possible to the original game, but also have some things here and there, and also for reasons to surprise old Lego Universe fans. Like they know the events of the game, so we want our universe to surprise them in a good way. Like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. Nice, and the likes.
Okay, I see. So kind of a harkening back to a lot of things, but still kind of keeping it in line. in a way.
Yeah.
All right. That actually does remind me. So, if I remember right, Lego Universe brought in a lot of different themes and kind of brought them together in a similar sense to Lego Worlds. Like you have Ninjago in the same world as, say, Ultra Agents. If I'm not mistaken.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay. Were you guys planning for my construction listeners out there on somehow tackling that? And if so, how?
Well, actually, seems like Bionicle, both G1 and G2, it's sort of difficult to work with because of their own canon, their own story, and their own rules. So it's sort of difficult to include them in our world.
That's understandable.
Yeah, but as far as our themes go, mainly system, we want to have as many of those as possible. But also integrate them in a way that doesn't feel forced or out of place. Just
That makes
small
sense.
reference here and there, and mentions connections to each other.
Yeah, kind of like a Lego movie. It's like, oh, there's some other worlds. We may not necessarily need to talk about them right now, but they're there.
Sort of, yeah.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because I understand it's obviously very difficult to work with these. Construction and system, they're vastly different, and there have only been so very few instances where construction has kind of teetered a little bit into the system sphere to make it even possible at all.
Yeah, that's one of our problems as far as that goes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Are there any other themes that you guys are just like, no, we're not going to be able to incorporate this, like, absolutely at all whatsoever, or is it all on the table?
I'm trying to think, actually, and as far as I can tell, pretty much every theme that is not construction is on our timeline.
Okay. Does that include Galador? I don't know if that really counts as construction.
To be honest, we really haven't talked about Galador.
I know some people would love to see it, and you can just have that guy from the Lego City set, the Ninjago City set, nice. With the Galador shirt, he'll just represent one of the factions and love Galador. All right, that makes a lot of sense, though. Thank you for answering that. All right, let me see how we're doing on time. Oh, we're doing pretty good. I think we can go ahead and get into one of the questions that we have here. And just another reminder, if anyone has any questions, feel free to send them in on Twitter, at the Eljay Johnsen, hashtag the Eljay Johnsen Show, and we will get to them pretty shortly here. So, this question was sent in via email. This is Chris at Gold Brick Productions.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh. I feel like there's a little background here.
Yeah.
His question is, would you please ask him which of the 4 Nexus Force factions is the best?
Okay. Assembly. Assembly all the way.
Assembly,
And
all right.
to be specific, the Summoner subclass from the Assembly.
Okay, please elaborate as to why they are the best faction.
Okay, so personally, I was always the support class on every game, and the Assembly filled that role, being like the support who gives shields to everyone, has lots of different abilities that could help in the battlefield, and the Summoner was for me so much fun. Like the amount of imagination, which is sort of like mana on other games,
Mm-hmm.
like to cast abilities. It was just so much fun for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. So you're really into support classes, and that kind of filled that gap and really allowed you to help others.
Yes.
I understand. Okay. I actually have a question at that point. Which is the worst faction?
Oh no. I can't choose a worst. I love all 4.
Okay, fair enough. I will accept that answer. Okay, so for the moment, while we wait for any more questions to come in, again, feel free to send them in on Twitter. and we will go ahead and move on to a few more questions, just general topics of discussion before we wrap up.
Actually, I'm seeing on Twitter there are two questions here.
Oh, gosh, darn it! Did I do that again? Sometimes they don't show up. Let me look this up. Let me see. Who are they from?
It's from I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, Wesley Baggins and Magic Spinjitzu Master.
Okay, Magic Spinjitzu Master. Where is hers? Because I can't.
Right here on the hashtag.
Yeah, let me see. Twitter is really, really strange because they're just it. Sometimes it will not show me that there is a question that had come in, but you are right. All right, Magic Spinjitzu Master asks, are there any themes that you would like to have seen in LEGO Universe? Can be themes that were around before or after it had ended.
Well, it's hard to say, really. I was happy with what we got because it was an original story with its own characters and own concepts. Mm-hmm. But if I had to choose a specific theme, I'd say Galaxy Squad. Because they had spaceships and all of that, sort of things that could expand on the space game of LEGO Universe. Like, imagine you could go into the space and fight against the Maelstrom in there. Mm-hmm. I think it would have been very cool to see implemented in the game.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. She also has a second question. Are there any aspects of LEGO Universe that you would have liked to have seen made into LEGO sets?
What are you saying?
She says, are there any aspects of LEGO Universe that you would have wanted to see as actual sets?
I'm thinking, like, I think I would love to see everything LEGO Universe made in a set. But to pick in a specific, I don't know, to be honest. Maybe that there was a huge dragon in the game, a boss fight, whose name was Buterscorch. Like, I would have loved to see that dragon made into a set, sort of similar to like how Ninjago does their dragon sets recently, like Breakbuild and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I would have loved to see myself in set form.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense, because LEGO dragons are really phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And then pertaining to the other individual who's asking, Wesley Baggins, the LEGO Universe Community Hub has been talking about the stream, and they were wondering if I would be interested in covering the current projects that are trying to emulate the live servers. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely. I would love to. Because the LEGO Universe is one of the various different LEGO themes that I'm just so unfamiliar with, and I'd love to know more. And honestly, that's why I've been looking so forward to today's stream, is because I've learned a lot from you, Javier, about LEGO Universe and the community and so much of the backstory, and I really appreciate you coming on to tell me about it.
It's a pleasure for me, like, sharing this fantastic story.
And it sounds like it is a fantastic story. I would love to learn as much about it as I can. And Wesley, to answer your question, absolutely. And if you guys at the project, the Dark Flame Universe project, wanna schedule something out, feel free to reach out to me, eljayjohnsen@gmail.com. So yeah, I'd love to know more. All right, so we are about to start wrapping up here. Let me see how we're doing on time. We're kind of getting to the end. So, Javier, I think I have satisfied my general desire to find out as much as I can today, because it seems like there is so much more to it that if it's gonna take me a while to kind of digest everything. But I do actually have to ask, is there anywhere I can go to learn more, to kind of like to like an encyclopedia or like a wiki, or is there a resource I can learn more about LEGO Universe, which would give me a better insight into our universe's goals?
So I actually think the wiki page for Lego Universe, it's actually pretty full of knowledge and bits of trivia about the game, the development. It's so full of things from the game, and it's pretty nice to learn a lot about everything that means Lego Universe, the concepts, the worlds, the characters. So I say that's the perfect place to learn more about the game itself.
Okay. All right, that's understandable. I see. Okay. We'll get into a couple of general things because obviously, this isn't just about the overarching thing. It's about individuals and talking about, members of the community. So, how pertaining to Lego Universe specifically in this instance, I presume there was a ranking system.
There
Some
was.
kind?
There was,
Okay.
yeah. You could level up on the game,
Okay.
and as the more you level up, you could use better equipment, armor, weapons, and you also got sort of gifts. Not really gifts, but rewards, more like.
Okay. Kind of like powers or items.
Yeah, mostly items, be it some consumables or, as I said, weapons or
Okay.
capes even.
No capes. Kind of like a Minecraft thing where we have certain people go to conventions to get some capes.
Similar, yeah. They were actually like on the higher levels where you could get capes of the Nexus Force.
Interesting. Okay. All right. And about what was the level cap? Like how high did it go?
If I'm not mistaken, it was 45.
45. Okay. That my guess was going to be 50 because a lot of games that I've played go up to about 50 unless it's like Overwatch, which I don't really think has a specific cap. Just keeps going and going and going endlessly.
Oh
But
boy.
all right. We actually do have another question from Mid Blue, and he
Oh,
asks, "Is Knights Kingdom 2 also in the project?"
Knights Kingdoms 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's not mentioned at all, I think, in our universe, but in our general timeline, it is featured in the past during medieval times. So, yeah, technically, it just won't be explored on our universe.
Okay, that's understandable. So kind of a reference, but not actively part of the current theme.
Yes.
Okay. All right. He has two more questions for both of us. Firstly, what are your general thoughts on this theme? And I'm not 100% sure if he's referring to Knight's Kingdom or if he's referring to Lego Universe. But for the moment, I'm going to assume it's Knight's Kingdom 2, because obviously we've been talking about Lego Universe. So
Yeah.
what do you think about it?
Well, I think it's a nice theme. It got several concepts we really enjoy. Characters fun to write about, especially Bladdock,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much a lot of the concepts introduced on Knight's Kingdoms works has a larger role on our timeline on setting up the cities, the countries, and all of those things. So yeah, I enjoy it. I think it could have been expanded more, but yeah,
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I'll agree. I thought it was kind of, in a sense, the predecessor to Chima in a strange way because of how they kind of divided the larger figures with the system sets. And I thought that was a really nice bridge because it kind of gave me a taste back in the day when it came out of, well, this is a larger figure and I already like Bionicle, so this is awesome. And then we have these system sets so that you can play out an event. So I really like that dichotomy. And finally, his third question for both of us is: have you ever played, I don't know, Chima Online?
I actually did play, but just very little, like not enough to really have an opinion on the game, to be honest. So can't really talk about much.
Yeah, no, I'm actually pretty much going to echo exactly that. I did play bit of Chima online. It wasn't much, and it was fine. I don't think that it was anything to write home about specifically, and not because it was a bad game, but just because it did not leave much of a lasting impression on me. But I don't think that's because specifically because of the game. My apologies, but it's more because I wasn't a big fan of the Chima theme, so I wasn't really looking for it to leave an impression on me, and so it didn't.
I'm sure Chima fans did enjoy it, as I've seen actually.
Yeah, no,
So I'm happy.
absolutely.
I'm happy for them.
Yeah, 100%. If they enjoyed it, I'm very glad. If they enjoyed the Chima theme, I'm very glad. I know I've been a harsh critic of Chima in the past, and it's been kind of unwarranted. You know, it didn't deserve my harsh, bagging on it for the most part. But yeah, no, I am definitely glad that if Chima fans were looking forward to it, I hope they enjoyed it. So,
For sure.
all right, in that case, there aren't any more questions. So, for my final two questions, firstly, is there anything that you would like to impart upon the Lego community at large? Nice, and any words of advice, recommendations, what have you?
Well, apart from the things I've already said, I I will really tell everyone to get into everything that means Lego, like everything possible. Not really hiding just one, like Bionicle or Ninjago, but sort of expand your horizons. Know about all of these wonderful things Lego has done so far, because then it becomes so I don't know the word. Very very cool to work around those. It becomes a fascinating world. All of the things they have done. So yeah, that's sort of my advice for anyone into Lego stories.
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic advice because it's kind of the whole scope of the show is to just expand your horizons, like you said, and branch out to new things and not just huddle in a community like Bionicle, like I have for a long time. So I like that.
It's
I
very cool
really
that you
do.
are expanding yourself, actually.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then finally, my last question is: where can people find more pertaining to our universe? Where can people follow the progression of the project, and where can people follow you on social media?
Okay, so as far as our universe goes, we actually have a website. It's a heavy work in progress, but we got several things on it. Some bits of lore about it, a list of characters, the little premise of the story, as well as the general crew of the series and what they work on. So I will really recommend you to go there. I can give you a link
Please
after
do.
we're done. Yeah. And as far as myself goes, I'd follow. Well, I mean, I've I recommend you go to my Twitter or my DeviantArt or Tumblr. I don't know, to basically see everything I do, like the different pieces of artwork out Lego, or maybe some things every now and then, but mostly Lego and everything that comes with it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I will go ahead and put all those in the description below. So if you're listening now, feel free to check those out. They'll be right down there. So, Javier, I really do appreciate you coming on today. I've learned a lot. I think that this is a really exciting project, and I'm looking so forward to seeing it progress and come to fruition. So, once again, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks to you, actually. It's been an honor to be here talking about this humble project of ours.
Well,
With
I'm looking
everyone
forward to it a
listening.
lot.
And I sure hope we will deliver.
Oh, I'm. You know what? Honestly, I think you guys will, because from the sounds of it, you guys have a lot of headway, and that's really important in a project like this.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, of course, it goes without saying for me, but you are welcome anytime. If there are any updates, please come on. We'll just talk about anything.
Sure will. If you, of course, welcome me.
You are.
I'd be happy to show up
Absolutely.
and talk more about what we've done on the time.
Heck yeah. Yeah, we'll schedule it out then. All right. In that case, that has been today's episode of the Eljay Johnsen Show. As a reminder, every Eljay Johnsen Show airs Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Any changes in that will be announced on Twitter. So if you want any updates and guest announcements, head on over to Twitter at the Eljay Johnsen, and you will get any updates pertaining to the show. And if you have any questions for myself or the guests, and guest announcements are made every Tuesday, then make sure to head on over to Twitter as well to get those updates and ask questions during the live show. And if you have any questions over the week, make sure to send them in via email to ljjohnson@gmail.com. So thank you all so very much for listening. And Javier, once again, thank you so very much for being with us today.
It's been very fun, I can tell you.
Excellent. That, at the very least, I want it to be fun. So thank you all very much for listening, be it live or during the uploaded recording, which will be on the channel shortly after this. And we will see you all next week. Have a great day.